Did you know that Canada has more lakes than the rest of the world combined? Yes, you heard that right. Canada, the second largest country in the world, is home to an astounding number of lakes, over 2 million to be precise. That's more than all the other countries on the planet combined. It's a testament to the vastness and diversity of Canada's geographical features. Stretching from the Atlantic, the Pacific and northward into the Arctic Ocean, Canada spans 6 time zones and covers nearly 10 million square kilometers, making it second only to Russia in terms of land area. It is a country of immense geographical diversity, from the rugged Rocky Mountains and vast prairies in the west to the rolling hills and fertile farmlands in the east and the frozen tundra of the Arctic in the north. Yet, despite its size, Canada is also one of the least densely populated countries in the world. This is largely due to the extreme conditions of its northern regions, where temperatures can plunge to -50 degrees Celsius in winter. Yet these harsh landscapes are home to an array of unique wildlife, including polar bears, caribou, and the elusive Arctic fox. But Canada is not just about its physical geography. It's about the people who have made this land their home, the cultures that have flourished here, and the history that has shaped its identity. From the indigenous peoples who first inhabited these lands thousands of years ago, to the European settlers who arrived in the 16th century, and the waves of immigrants who have come here in search of a better life since then, Canada's history is as diverse and complex as its geography. So, whether it's the majestic Rocky Mountains, the endless prairies, the icy Arctic, or the bustling cities, Canada is a country that never fails to amaze and inspire. It is a place where the old meets the new, where tradition blends with innovation, and where diversity is celebrated as a strength. So let's embark on a journey through time to unravel the history of this fascinating country. If you're enjoying this journey through Canada's history, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more amazing stories and breathtaking landscapes. If you're enjoying this journey through Canada's history, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our... Long before the first Europeans set foot on Canadian soil, the land was home to diverse Indigenous tribes. The First Nations, Inuit and Métis people were the original custodians of this vast, unspoiled wilderness. The First Nations, a collective term for more than 600 distinct tribes, had a rich and varied culture. They were spread across Canada, each tribe with its unique traditions and customs. From the Haida of the west coast with their totem poles and longhouses, to the Iroquois in the east with their corn, beans and squash, or the Three Sisters as they were known, the First Nations people were deeply connected to the land and the natural world. Further north, in the harsh Arctic climate, lived the Inuit. These hardy people adapted skillfully to their environment. They hunted seals, whales and fish from kayaks and umiaks, built igloos as temporary shelters during winter hunts, and developed an intricate system of communication using Inuksut stone landmarks. The Métis, descendants of European fur traders and indigenous women, were born of two worlds. They created a unique culture that combined elements of European and indigenous traditions. With their Red River carts and fiddle music, the Métis were the original masters of the prairies. These indigenous tribes did not merely survive in Canada's challenging landscapes, they thrived. Their knowledge of the land, the seasons, the plants and the animals allowed them to create complex societies with rich cultural expressions. They developed sustainable ways of living, intricate social structures and vibrant oral histories. Even in the face of adversity and hardship, the Indigenous tribes of Canada demonstrated resilience, innovation and a deep respect for the land. Their legacies are woven into the fabric of Canadian society, influencing its values, its spirit, and its identity. These Indigenous people laid the foundation for the Canada we know today. The year was 1497 when the first Europeans, led by John Cabot, arrived on the shores of Canada. A wave of exploration had begun, spurred on by the promise of new lands, wealth, and the chance to spread Christianity. Cabot's journey marked the beginning of intense European interest in this enigmatic north. His voyage was followed by those of Jacques Cartier and Samuel de Champlain in the 16th and 17th centuries, respectively. They sailed up the St. Lawrence River, establishing the first permanent European settlement in what would later become Quebec City. These explorers were not just adventurers, they were also diplomats and negotiators. Their interactions with the indigenous people were complex, characterized by both cooperation and conflict. Initially, Europeans relied heavily on indigenous knowledge and assistance, learning survival skills, navigation routes and trading practices. Yet they also brought with them diseases that devastated indigenous populations, altered their way of life, and led to the gradual loss of their lands. The European settlers began to establish a foothold on this new land, leading to the creation of New France. The French, under the rule of Louis XIV, encouraged their citizens to settle in Canada, giving birth to a unique blend of European and indigenous cultures. This period saw the establishment of fur trading companies, the growth of settlements, and the spread of Catholicism. However, life in New France was not without its challenges. Harsh winters, conflicts with indigenous populations, and rivalries with other European powers made survival difficult. Despite these hardships, the settlers persevered, laying the foundation for a French-speaking population that still thrives in Canada today. This European influence significantly shaped the future of Canada. The languages, traditions, and institutions these early explorers and settlers brought with them continue to play a significant role in the country's identity. The legacy of these early European explorers and settlers, both positive and negative, is deeply woven into the fabric of modern Canada. This European influence significantly shaped the future of Canada. The 18th century marked a period of intense competition between the British and French for control over the Canadian territory. This was a time of high stakes, with both European powers vying for the lucrative fur trade and strategic advantages offered by the vast Canadian wilderness. This fierce rivalry was not a peaceful one. It was punctuated by several conflicts, each more intense than the last. The French, who had established their strongholds in Quebec and other parts of what is now eastern Canada, were often at odds with the British, who had their sights set on expansion. The apex of this rivalry was the 7 Years' War, a global conflict that spilled into the Canadian frontier. This was no mere skirmish in the woods, but an all-out war for supremacy. It was a war that saw armies clashing, alliances shifting, and the future of Canada hanging in the balance. The war was brutal and the stakes were high, yet when the smoke cleared it was the British who emerged victorious. The French, weakened and outmaneuvered, were forced to capitulate. This marked a significant turning point in the history of Canada. However, victory on the battlefield was just the first step. The British needed to consolidate their gains, and they did so through diplomacy. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1763, formalized British control over Canada. This document, a symbol of British victory, was also a promise of a new beginning. The Treaty of Paris was more than just a piece of paper. It was the blueprint for a new Canada, one under British rule. It ensured the rights of the French Canadians, allowed them to practice their own religion, and maintain their own laws. This was a crucial development, as it set the stage for the unique blend of cultures that characterizes Canada to this day. With the Treaty of Paris, the British gained control of Canada, setting the stage for a new era. This was a monumental shift in the balance of power, and it would shape the future of this great nation in ways that no one could have predicted. Under British rule, Canada became a refuge for Loyalists fleeing the American Revolution. The late 18th century was a time of upheaval and change in North America. The American Revolution was in full swing, and not everyone was on the side of the revolutionaries. Many, known as Loyalists, due to their continued allegiance to the British Crown, sought refuge from the conflict. And where better to flee than north, to the British-ruled territories that would later become Canada? The influx of these Loyalists was not a trickle, but a flood. Thousands upon thousands made their way northward, forever changing the demographic makeup of these territories. This mass migration was not without its consequences. The indigenous tribes, who had lived on these lands for centuries, found themselves contending with an ever-increasing number of settlers. This period marked a significant shift in the relationship between the indigenous tribes and the European settlers. But the Loyalists didn't just change the demographics, they also had a significant impact on the political landscape. The sheer number of English-speaking Loyalists in what is now Quebec led the British to divide their Canadian territories into two: Upper Canada, where English law and language predominated, and Lower Canada, where French civil law and language were maintained. This division, based on language and culture, is a defining feature of Canada's identity even today. However, it's important to understand that this division wasn't an immediate solution to the tensions between the French and English-speaking populations. In fact, it further complicated the relationship between these two groups and laid the groundwork for the distinct cultural identities that we see in Canada today. So while the American Revolution was a struggle for independence in the United States, it was also a pivotal moment in Canadian history. The Loyalists who sought refuge in Canada under British rule didn't just escape a war, they shaped a nation. This period significantly influenced the cultural and political landscape of Canada. The 19th century brought with it winds of change in the form of the Canadian Confederation. As the century dawned, Canada, then a collection of British colonies, was growing restless under the Crown's rule. This restlessness, coupled with emerging ideals of self-governance and national identity, set the stage for the birth of a new nation. In the lead-up to Confederation, it was clear that change was imminent. The colonies were dealing with a host of issues, from political deadlock in Canada east and west to the threat of American expansionism. The need for a stronger, unified front was becoming increasingly apparent. At the heart of this movement was a group of visionaries known as the Fathers of Confederation. Among them, Sir John A. Macdonald, a charismatic and shrewd lawyer, emerged as a key figure. Macdonald, along with his contemporaries, envisioned a united Canada free from the threat of American annexation and capable of controlling its destiny. The London Conference of 1866 served as the turning point. Here, the Fathers of Confederation laid out their vision for a united Canada. They proposed the creation of a federal system, with a central government to oversee matters of national and international importance, and provincial governments to manage local affairs. Finally, on July 1st, 1867, the Dominion of Canada was born. The British North America Act was passed, effectively uniting the provinces of Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia into one dominion under the Crown. Macdonald became the first Prime Minister, marking the beginning of an era of change and growth for Canada. The Confederation did not just unite territories, it gave birth to a new identity, a new vision and a new nation. It was a testament to the power of unity, the strength of shared vision and the indomitable spirit of the Canadian people. The Confederation marked the birth of Canada as a nation. It was a pivotal moment that set the course for the nation we know today. Following Confederation, Canada embarked on a period of rapid expansion and growth. This was a time of great transformation and progress, marked by the ambitious construction of the Transcontinental Railway that would stitch the vast Canadian landscape together. Imagine the excitement, the energy, the sense of possibility as the first railway tracks were laid down. The railway was more than just a means of transportation, it was a symbol of unity. An iron thread weaving through the heart of Canada, connecting east to west. It was a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, a marvel of its time. But the railway was not built in a day. It took years of hard work, of sweat and steel, of countless men and women toiling under the vast Canadian sky. And with each new mile of track, the promise of a united Canada grew closer to becoming a reality. At the same time, Canada itself was growing, extending its reach beyond the original provinces. New territories and provinces were added, each with its own unique character and culture, each adding to the rich tapestry that was, and still is, Canada. From the rugged beauty of British Columbia to the windswept plains of Manitoba, from the rocky coasts of Newfoundland to the vast wilderness of the Yukon, Canada was blossoming into a diverse and vibrant nation. Yet this period of expansion was not without its challenges. The rapid development and growth had a profound impact on the indigenous populations. Their traditional lands were encroached upon, their ways of life disrupted. They faced displacement and cultural upheaval, a dark side to the story of Canada's growth that is still being reckoned with today. By the turn of the 20th century, Canada had grown from coast to coast. It was a country transformed, a country on the move, a country ready to step onto the world stage. From the first railway track to the last new province, this was a time of expansion, of growth, of coming together as a nation. By the turn of the 20th century, Canada had grown from coast to coast. The world wars of the 20th century left an indelible mark on Canada. During the First World War, Canada was automatically drawn into the conflict as part of the British Empire. However, it was more than a mere participant. From the muddy trenches of Vimy Ridge to the skies above Europe, Canadian soldiers distinguished themselves with courage and tenacity. Over 60,000 Canadians lost their lives and another 170,000 were wounded. The war was a brutal introduction to the world stage, but it also sparked a sense of national identity as Canadians fought and died on foreign soil. The Second World War saw Canada stepping into the fight even more assertively. From the beginning, Canada was a full partner in the Allied effort. Canadians were instrumental in some of the conflict's most pivotal moments, from the Battle of the Atlantic, where they safeguarded vital supply lines, to the beaches of Normandy, where they played a key role in the D-Day invasion. The war's toll was heavy, with more than 40,000 Canadians losing their lives. But the wars were not just about loss and sacrifice. They were also a time of transformation. The country's economy, previously focused on agriculture and natural resources, was quickly industrialized to support the war effort. Women stepped into roles previously held by men, breaking down gender barriers and reshaping societal norms. The shared struggle and sacrifice fostered a sense of unity, a feeling of being distinctly Canadian. In the aftermath of the wars, Canada emerged on the international stage as a middle power, a nation committed to peacekeeping and diplomacy. The experience of the wars had galvanized the country, fostering a stronger sense of national identity and unity. Canada was no longer just a member of the British Empire, but a nation in its own right, with its own voice in global affairs. Canada emerged from the wars with a stronger sense of national unity and international presence. In the post-war era, Canada has continued to evolve and grow. This evolution is symbolized by the adoption of the maple leaf flag in 1965, a design that captures the spirit of the country and its people. The flag, with its iconic red maple leaf set against a white square, is undeniably Canadian. It represents a break from the colonial past and a symbol of unity, pride and independence. The 1960s also saw Canada acknowledging its linguistic duality with the Official Languages Act. This act made English and French the official languages of the federal government, reflecting the country's rich linguistic heritage and commitment to diversity. It not only recognized the equal status of English and French within government institutions, but also ensured the protection of minority language rights across the country. Without a doubt, one of the most significant events in modern Canadian history was the patriation of the Constitution in 1982. With this, Canada took full control over its constitution, breaking the last formal links with Britain. The Constitution Act, signed by Queen Elizabeth II, included the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, a Bill of Rights that guarantees fundamental freedoms to all Canadians. It was a bold step that signalled Canada's maturation as an independent nation. As a member of the international community, Canada has consistently played an active role in global affairs. It has contributed to peacekeeping missions, advocated for human rights, and has been a voice for moderation and diplomacy on the world stage. Whether it's participating in NATO operations, supporting United Nations initiatives, or providing aid during global crises, Canada continues to assert its commitment to international cooperation and peace. Canada's story continues to unfold, shaped by its diverse and resilient people. From the adoption of a new flag to the patriation of its constitution, from its bilingualism to its role in international affairs, Canada's journey is a testament to its spirit of unity, diversity and resilience. The country's history is a rich tapestry, woven together by the threads of its people's stories and experiences. It's a story of a nation that's constantly evolving, yet firmly rooted in its values and traditions. From its Indigenous roots to its modern achievements, Canada's story is one of resilience, diversity and growth. This tale begins in the enigmatic North, where First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples thrived, steeped in rich cultures and traditions. Our journey then takes us through European exploration as brave adventurers sought new lands and resources. This period, marked by contact and conflict, laid the groundwork for the Canada we know today. The battle for control was a pivotal chapter in Canada's story. The French and the English, two mighty European powers, vied for dominance, forever shaping the country's linguistic and cultural landscape. British rule brought significant changes, not least of which was the influx of Loyalists fleeing the American Revolution. This event fostered a distinct Canadian identity, separate from its southern neighbour. As we moved into the 19th century, Canada embarked on the path to Confederation. Various provinces and territories, each with its unique character, joined together to form a united nation. This unity, however, didn't dampen the diversity that makes Canada so vibrant. The story of Canada is incomplete without mentioning its expansion and growth. From the construction of the Transcontinental Railway to the discovery of abundant natural resources, Canada transformed into a prosperous nation. Its involvement in the world wars, though marked by sacrifice, showcased its commitment to global peace and security. In modern times, Canada has continued to evolve, embracing its multiculturalism and championing human rights. Its cities have become hubs of innovation and its landscapes, a haven for nature enthusiasts. Yet Canada never forgets its past. It strives to acknowledge and rectify historical injustices, particularly towards its Indigenous peoples. And that's the story of Canada, a vast land of beauty and diversity, continually evolving and embracing its rich history.